Guys, the Italian Dream Marvin Vettori dominated Kevin Holland last night, and he called out Izzy. Does he get the champ next? We're talking about that and his great performance right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, another tough night for Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
Almost like deja vu in a way. He sort of got taken down, wrestled. It was a little different in the sense that I think Marvin Vettori was better able to advance the position than Derek Brunson was. I think Marvin Vettori going for a few submission attempts, the head and arm triangle, doing some more damage in the way of blacking Kevin's eye, causing that big swelling. I believe it was a more impressive performance than Derek Brunson's, but very similar nonetheless.
Yeah, which is crazy because Italians are not generally known for their wrestling, and Derek Brunson is very much known for his wrestling. And it seemed like as far as MMA wrestling goes, Marvin Vettori is a real tough customer to deal with. He was great at advancing positions, and Kevin kind of we knew what some of his issues were, or some of his
Achilles heels
as far as the Derek Brunson fight went. But we also knew he didn't have time to improve on them all that much, stepping in on short notice to fight this beast in Marvin Vettori. So I kind of thought, might not be the best matchup for him to take on short notice, but that's what he does, and he's kind of made his name doing it. And crazier things have happened than Kevin Holland winning a fight on short notice. So it was a good fight. It was a dominant fight, and I think Marvin Vettori deserves a lot of credit because what he did was not easy.
Yeah, and I think the general consensus by a lot of people, even us admittedly predicting this fight, was that Marvin Vettori was going to give Kevin Holland the stand-up match that he wanted. And Kevin obviously has that tremendous reach. He's got a very slender frame for 185, but he's got a very long reach, and he uses it very well. So we thought that, okay, we're probably going to see Kevin get that stand-up striking exchange that he wants, and we know that he's very precise with his shots. That wasn't at all what happened. What we saw was Vettori, who, as you said, Italians are not really known for their grappling. They're not winning a lot of IBJJF World Jiu-Jitsu Championships. No. They're not sending a lot of people to the Olympics and winning medals in wrestling. No. But MMA wrestling is a different thing. You think back to Georges St-Pierre. He wasn't a wrestler growing up. Again, Canada's not known for their wrestling. Certain people figure it out. Marvin Vettori's got a great camp out there in California. He trains with killers every day, and he was extremely well prepared for this fight. Thinking for what's next for Kevin, it's very clear what his Achilles heel is here. He has a very hard time getting up once he's taken down. Now, he's very good at jiu-jitsu and grappling if he's on a top position, reversing the position. Even when it's kind of a flowy open guard position, as we saw with Jacare, he was throwing up some triangles and moving and shrimping and creating some space. But it seems like when a bigger body, a stronger body can get him down and put pressure on and begin to ground and pound game, that's where his true Achilles heel lies. Yeah. So I think he really needs to work on that.
Yeah, and I do believe that if he tries his hand at 170, we might see some great success there. But one thing that, if you've spent a lot of times on any sort of martial arts, especially mixed martial arts or grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, you know that size advantages are a real thing when it comes to groundwork and grappling. Size advantage doesn't mean all that much in a striking realm unless you're dealing with somebody who's equally skilled as you. But in grappling, you could be dealing with somebody who's a couple of levels below you as far as rank and things like that. But if they outweigh you by 20, 30, even 50 pounds, then it's going to be difficult for you to get over on them. And I feel like Kevin was dealing with that last night. He was dealing with a bigger, more powerful guy, which makes me kind of want to see Kevin Holland compete at some point in Submission Underground or at Third Coast Grappling or some of these grappling tournaments while he's in between fights, because I feel like he'd probably be a really fun jiu-jitsu black belt to watch compete in some sort of rule set where it doesn't really benefit the fighter to stall on top and kind of ground and pound and stuff. But I feel like that would be fun to see him do. But as far as MMA right now, the 185ers know exactly what to do to shut Big Mouth up, and that's to put him on his back and keep him there.
Yeah, and it seems to be quite easy to take him down if you time his strikes right. Because if he throws really heavy, and he's knocked a lot of people out. But sometimes when he throws, he gets himself out of position. He's a little too close, and the good grappler can notice the balance it kind of being in their favor, and take that shot and get the takedown. I think we clearly got to see Kevin at 170.
Yeah.
I mean, he's mentioned that before this Vettori opportunity, but because he lost to Brunson and it was his first main event, he wanted to get right back on the horse. Marvin Vettori is a big name, has a split decision loss against Izzy, so I understand why he took this fight, but at the same time, I think he had the right idea after the Brunson fight, and that's to say, I'm going to take the time, the strength conditioning, the nutrition, lose the weight, get down to 170. He weighed in at 183 and a half. And if you're not talking about a title fight, you can weigh in all the way up to 186.
Yeah.
So he's almost 3 pounds below where he needs to be. He's not cutting any weight. God knows how heavy Marvin Vettori was, probably close to 200 pounds, if not more.
Right. When he stepped in, he was probably right over the 200-pound weight. He's a big guy and a strong guy. But there's a murderer's row of wrestlers at 170 as well, so you've kind of got to address those that Achilles heel, that wrestling, and deal with that head on. And I think Kevin's the kind of guy that's going to make the right adjustments. And I don't think that he wasn't already in the training room working on them after the Derek Brunson fight. I just think that on a short notice opportunity, he decided to take it. And it didn't work out for him, but he's a company man. He's going to keep getting calls, and every time he sticks his hand up when something happens, they might call on him. I know that he's a marketable guy, and the UFC sees a lot of potential in making him a star. But don't tarnish his record or tarnish his value too much right now by just throwing him in there because he's like Cowboy Cerrone saying I'll fight anybody. You've got a real great potential star on your hands. I mean, you see him and he has like that movie star quality to him.
Yeah.
He just looks like he could be a star that crosses over into entertainment and everything like that. So I think they need to be a little bit more strategic with who they have him fight next. I don't think he deserves easy fights at all. I will say, if we're gonna talk about the things he did wrong, let's talk about what he did right. In both of these fights, he has outstruck Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson. And not only, I mean, I don't know about the numbers. I would have to go back and look at them. But, if you just watch the rounds, it seems like he's getting off all the strikes he wants to get off. And that's what makes them close the distance and put him on the ground. And I think he was even outstriking Derek Brunson from the bottom. So he's a pretty creative guy. He just can't get off his back. But none of these guys really want to stand and trade with him because he's a pretty deadly striking artist.
No question. And that's very clear when you saw Vettori switch his game plan in the first round, second round, when he's starting to get tagged with some really crisp shots. Also, shout out to Vettori's chin because he took a few tough shots.
He did.
And so Holland's, he's always dangerous in that regard, but the Vettori and Brunson were able to make those adjustments and get him down. And again, getting up off of your back, it's not, I won't say it's easy, but there are mechanics that you can learn and techniques that you can implement and things you can do in the training room to better learn how to do that. Obviously, there's always a counter to the counter, and sometimes you just get paired up against a better guy.
Yeah.
But even though I want to see him move down to 170, don't think for a second, as you said, that there's some good wrestlers down there, that if Marvin Vettori can do that to him, that Colby Covington can't do that to him,
right,
or Khamzat Chimaev can't do that to him. Yeah, forget about it. So you have, regardless of what weight class he's going to continue to compete in, that's a big problem that he's got to address.
Yeah, and I think he will do it. Like I said, I think he took this fight. This was a strange moment in his career where, he's coming off a loss and then takes a fight, 2 or 3 weeks later,
something like that,
against another tough guy. And maybe I think he's a higher ranked guy and everything like that. So the chips were kind of against him, but that's the way he likes it. He likes to bounce back. And I felt like if he was able to pull off an underdog victory over Marvin Vettori, it would put him right back where he was, and he wouldn't have lost any of the stock that he may have lost against Derek Brunson would have come back and then some. But right now we just need to regroup, figure out where we're going to do. And if we're going to go to 170, get the diet ready. Next time somebody pulls out at 185 in the top 10, say you'll do it, but maybe hope somebody else gets the call. And if I'm the UFC, even though I know he's going to answer the call when we ask, or if somebody pulls out, we're looking in all directions, and we look at Kevin Holland, he's going to say yes. Maybe just go with somebody else. Give somebody else an opportunity. Let him test the waters at 170, because I think that frame at 170 could actually be pretty interesting to see such a tall guy. I think he's probably even bigger than Neil Magny. Kind of reminds me of the body type of Neil Magny.
81-inch reach, I think. Quite a substantial reach.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right. He's going to have that urge to call out anybody, any type of call or fight cancellation or something that happens. He's going to want to be right in the mix there. But I think there's a litany of fun fights that you can make for him. He's still very young in his career. He was the guy that said yes to Thiago Santos, for God's sake, before he was even in the UFC. So we know he's game, but I think we need to manage his career. The UFC needs to manage his career, and his management needs to manage his career, because he can't continue to take L's and continue to have his stock rise. It's very important for Kevin Holland to get a win next. As we said, there's a lot of things he does right. There's a few things he needs to work on, but the good news is he's very young in his career, and he's got a lot of upside.
Yeah, absolutely. He had 5-0 a record last year, which is very impressive. Winning all 5, and 4 of them were finishes, right? And now this year he's kind of started a little bit less than par, and I feel like if he can get back on the winning track, maybe even give him 2 more fights this year. So he's staying relatively active. But if he can win those 2, I feel like he has a very promising career ahead of him. And he's still such a young guy. Just let him develop those skills in the training room. He's obviously in the training room all the time and getting better. Let's just not race through this thing and let him mature and grow as a fighter.
It's a journey, no doubt.
Yeah, and shout out to Marvin Vettori, because Marvin did everything right. I mean, he said he wasn't that impressed with his own performance, but when you get a 50-44 call by one of the judges, you did something right, and everybody else saw it 45-50, which is right. I do think that the overwhelming grappling that he did definitely warranted that kind of a scorecard. And Marvin, as far as what he's going to do next, he's probably going to sit and wait for a little while, and then come later this year. I think, depending on what happens this weekend with Kelvin Gastelum and Robert Whittaker, things could wind up going right into Marvin Vettori's favor, and he could wind up in there with Izzy again.
I think so. And as you always like to say, there's 5 rounds in a main event fight, but then there's 25 minutes in that fight if it goes the distance. And if you break those 25 minutes down into 1-minute segments, Marvin Vettori won at least 24 of those.
Right.
Probably all 25. So he dominated Holland, which is what the number 6 guy who is calling out the champion, that's what they should do to the number 10 guy who was Holland. Here's the thing. I think Kelvin Gastelum is in the driver's seat here. Kelvin Gastelum had an absolute war with Izzy. That was one of my favorite fights. That was amazing. An awesome fight. The competition that he's taking on this weekend in Robert Whittaker, and we'll obviously do a video separately breaking down that fight entirely and giving predictions there. Robert Whittaker is a much more impressive win at 185 than Kevin Holland is right now. And so I believe that if Kelvin Gastelum has an impressive win, or maybe even if he finishes Whittaker, that he will be the one over Vettori to get that rematch with Israel Adesanya. I think that the 185 division, it works out in Vettori's favor. And I think if it had stayed Costa Whittaker, it would have really worked out in Vettori's favor. But because you insert Kelvin into the mix, now you're talking about somebody who also had a very close fight with Izzy. But when you have a guy, Whittaker, Izzy knocked him out, knocked Costa out. Beat Yoel Romero, he's no longer in the UFC. So when you look at Vettori was number 6 going into last night. I'm not sure where he'll fall tomorrow when they come out with the rankings, but I presume he'll be in the top 5 as he should be. But what he has going for him is that all of the guys above him have been knocked out in recent history to the champs. So with the exception of Kelvin, that's why I think Kelvin's in the driver's seat. And I think if he has a spectacular performance, we will see him get the rematch with Izzy. If not, I think it'll be Vettori unless Robert Whittaker does something outrageously spectacular.
Yeah, and which is definitely don't bet on that not happening, because Robert Whittaker seems to be the only guy that nobody can beat in the middleweight division besides Izzy.
Yeah.
He's an absolute stud. Izzy's kind of an interesting guy. I could see Izzy doing something crazy, like let's just say Kelvin Gastelum wins this weekend. getting on Twitter and saying that he'd like to see Marvin Vettori fight Kelvin Gastelum and then see the winner get him. I feel like that's something I would like to see. If I was maybe Izzy, I would probably do that because I feel like the UFC would poke their ears up at that and be like, you know what? I would like to see that. That would be a good title eliminator. And it makes sense because both of these guys have losses to him. They were both pretty great matchups. Kelvin's was more entertaining. Vettori got one of the judges thinking that he won the fight. So it seems to make good sense to be one of these guys getting the next title shot. And I think if Izzy kind of plays creator in that situation, it might end up working out for him.
Well, I'll add a level of interesting to that because they do train at the same gym.
Oh gosh!
So what about that? A straight up gym war. And Vettori said, obviously they're friends and they're the same size. They're going to be training partners and all of that. But this is a team sport.
Yeah.
But and MMA is a unique sport in that sense that it is a team sport in the sense that everybody at Gracie Barra, everybody at Main Street Muay Thai, we support, we train with, we help get better, we root for.
Right.
But there can only be one person in that cage.
Right.
And if it's you or the other guy and y'all happen to be from the same gym, to some degree, you got to look out for yourself. So it might make for a very interesting situation if Kelvin gets the win here.
Yeah, the plot thickens, and it might turn into like a Gilbert Burns versus Kamaru Usman type of situation.
Maybe Trevor Whitman will take one of them. That'll just be Trevor's thing. Whenever there's a gym that has
two top contenders,
Trevor will take one of them and train him. So.
Hey, that might work out for him.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, guys, let us know what you think. Who should fight the champ next? What did you think of Marvin Vettori's performance? And should Kevin Holland go down to 170? We certainly think so. Thank you guys again so much for watching our videos. We're really blown away by the amount of engagement that we get from you guys and the subscriptions. They just keep growing. We can't thank you all enough. We do this in large part because of you guys. So we appreciate it. And please, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And check us out on audio where you listen to those podcasts. Have a great day.
Peace.